All right. We did the live thing. It's episode 68. We're one episode away from the coveted episode 69, which I will somehow fit 420 into the title as well. And we'll have a grand old time. But for now, it's the warm-up episode, the foreplay episode, if you would, to the greater episode that is going to be episode 69. But here, right now, welcome. And thank you for joining us. And we'll get right into introductions. Sam.
Hey. It's good to be here. Long time no see.
I'm no longer pronouncing your middle name, so people can just read it.
Okay. You know what? That's fair. That almost makes it funnier if you just pretend it's not there. So that works out. Well, see, you might meet the SSD requirement, but your installation's a little confusing for me. Like, do you come with a heat sink? Do you, like, what generation are you? Are Gen 2, Gen 3? Like, I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Absolutely. And, you know, the man who keeps it simple every week, you know, from Basement Radio Arcade Podcast and the beautiful, not terrifying lands of Florida, Mr. Eric Jackson.
What is going on? Happy to be back. Missed you guys last week.
Absolutely. It's been a busy couple of weeks, and we're all just, you know, rolling in stride. Well, I have no choice other than to roll everywhere. Food's too tasty.
As long as you don't bounce. Rolling's fine. Just don't bounce.
Yeah. It's the potholes at the end of the hill that are the worst. But as we talk about each and every week, we talk a little bit about the games that we have been playing. So Sam automatically has to go last because he got to play Halo Infinite this week. And I just want to punch him in his smiling face right now. Because we were brothers going, oh, we didn't get emails until he got an email, and my inbox still deliciously is missing one.
They hit me with the last minute one. I woke up the morning of it happening. They're like, oh, yeah, by the way, here you go. Got lost in the mail. We got you, fam.
Like Christmas vacation. Nick got the Jelly of the Month Club. It's the gift that keeps on giving the whole year.
Yeah. Yeah, 343 definitely heard me slandering Halo 4 at some point and went, all right, fuck this guy. I'll get you next time. But Eric, what have you been playing this week?
I have actually been, you know, actually, like you said, it's been a couple busy weeks, but I've actually got some pretty good gaming in. Nothing too taxing. I kind of took a break from playing anything that was too engrossing. Well, I should say engrossing, because I actually played through Death's Door, which I'm sure you guys have probably heard about this little game recently. Fantastic game. Definitely up there in my thoughts for Game of the Year. I expected it to be good. I didn't expect it to be as good as it was. It's one of those games that grabbed me, and I was like when I wasn't playing it, I wanted to be playing it, and I was a bit sad when it was over. So, but yeah, so I was playing that. And over the weekend, excuse me, I played Raji. What's the full title for that? Raji and the
I know the game you're talking about. I don't remember the full title.
Yeah, Raji, an ancient epic. Played through that. Pretty good game. Definitely gives me like the Prince of Persia vibe, and action platformer. Good story. Dives into like Indian mythology in a lot of ways. But yeah, pretty interesting. I did not know that there's supposed to be a DLC planned for this game. And the only reason I mentioned that is because I got to the end and it was pretty abrupt the way they kind of closed it off. I was kind of like, that was the ending? Okay. But someone told me the other day that they're planning a DLC and also maybe a sequel. So I'm like, okay. They just didn't kind of make it aware in the way it ended that was going to be happening. So, but overall, good game, fun game, not too long.
So they Mass Effect 3'd you, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I would say that in a way. Didn't take away from the game, but the game had some really cool boss battles. Like I said, the mythology is really cool. I don't know a ton about like Indian mythology as I do, like I'm more into like Greek mythology, Norse mythology. So it was pretty cool going through that. I definitely recommend it. Another it's in Game Pass. I did start on the Ascent and decided I'm going to hold off. I had not looked at any reviews or previews leading up to it. The Ascent was definitely one of my most anticipated games. I kind of wanted to jump in, started it, and I happened to see, not a review, but I just happened to see someone's feedback who had been pretty far into the game. And they started speaking on some of the later portions, kind of characters becoming OP. Like doing the typical, we're going to kind of maybe throw in the faux difficulty to make it seem like there's a little bit more type of thing, maybe. That's what's going on. So I did, outside I heard there are some bugs. Yeah, that happens, whatever. But when I started hearing that there's a bit of grind and then there's almost like an impossible thing, like possibilities to get past unless you're definitely doing co-op. I'm like, that's just not good. That's not good game design. If you're kind of promoting to where you can play co-op or play solo, you should make it to where either one can be done. Like if you're going to play solo, you're not going to hit a wall where all of a sudden the enemies are way over level and you can't get past anything. And conversely, if you're playing co-op, it should ramp up to meet that challenge. And I started seeing more and more people kind of in love, like in the honeymoon phase, and then they got to those certain points and it was like sort of consistent. So then I started looking into some of the reviews. I saw what Jez had to say about it, Ains, some of those guys. And again, so I just decided with some of that, I'm going to sit back and wait because I love the aesthetic. I love the gameplay. The game is beautiful. It is one I still want to play, but it's like, I don't want to run into that. So I'll wait and see what they do as far as patches or, kind of cleaning some of that up. So other than that, yeah, it's kind of been jumping around. I did start on Final Fantasy Remake and I put it on hold just because I said, you know what? I'm definitely more in a vibe right now of just playing some shorter games and getting some of those off. So actually, I also started Omno last night.
Nice.
Because I was hearing pretty good things about that. So yes, that's kind of been my gaming vibe lately. Just some bite-sized things.
Sometimes that's good. Sometimes it's good to just not even that you're not like they aren't good games happening or whatever, but just decouple from the big stuff.
Yeah.
And experiment around a bit. Totally.
Yeah. The things that take you 40, 60, 80 hours. It's, we have so many of those. So sometimes it's just good. And then those smaller stories those smaller games that you always hear about start to pile up or you may miss one. So I said, you know what? This seems to be a pretty good run. And it's been a pretty good space to be in so far.
Well, yeah, because Eric's got like 8 Yakuza games to beat before the end of 2021.
Yeah. Remind me of that. Thought about that the other day. I'm like, oh man, we're in August. I'm running out of road.
It's gonna hit December, and Eric's gonna be like, all right, Yakuza 0, I'm coming for you, and we're gonna go 0 through 7. Let's go.
Well, I'll be honest. I did have some plans for what was the summer break, from my job, from work. And as you guys know, things changed. So I was like, oh, okay. I'll move that down. And then I'm like, oh, but damn, then Deathloop's coming out and Psychonauts is coming out. And I'm like, oh, God, Yakuza.
12 minutes.
12 minutes.
Yep.
Better hope it's only 12 minutes because that's all the things I have in my backlog.
Yeah, man. So it's a good problem to have. But hey, the good thing is those games aren't going anywhere. So
yep,
I'll jump on. And yeah, because Judgment's in. Oh, then yeah, Judgment 2 is coming. So yeah, let's keep on adding to that Yakuza and Yakuza family of games. Yeah.
It's brutal, man. Like trust me, I 100% feel you because I'm actually doing really good at playing through my games, beating them. I'm getting really good at that cycle now. Mm-hmm. Until this past week. I started Death's Door and I was like, this is great. I love this game. I love the aesthetic. It's adorable, but also challenging. But it's like that perfect balance of challenge where I'm not like sitting there going, oh my God, 100th time smashing my face off this boss. It's like, I almost had it. You're always like on that cusp where you're like, I can get it this time. And I really like that about the game. I am currently struggling I think it's like the swamp that I'm doing right now. I am terrible at staying within a small path and fighting enemies. I'm very, very bad at that. So that's taking a bit, but enjoying that. I jumped day 1 into the Ascent and it's interesting because I'm not as hot on it as people were right off the hop. But it's interesting to watch because I decided I had some free time this week. So I started watching some of the people that weren't liking it and they were streaming it. So I decided to watch how they were playing it. And I've come to the conclusion that people simply did not pay attention to the tutorials whatsoever in this game. Because what people are doing is they're running full tilt into every fight like it's Diablo and throwing, shooting and gunning and everything else and getting instantly slaughtered. When the game starts you off and goes, hey, this is cover. This is how you aim over cover. This is important because we're going to throw lots of enemies at you at a lot of times. It's important that you learn to bait and move and everything else. There's a whole detailed thing about how you're supposed to approach this. And I see people and they're just like running in like it's Diablo and spamming in a circle and going, oh, well, I died. It's like, yeah. There was wall cover, you could have shot at them, or it's not just so many of the top-down twin sticks or even the over-the-top shooters rely so much on you charging in, and this game doesn't want you to do that. And I think a lot of people are just challenged with that. The one thing I will say that I haven't seen anyone bring up, I've seen people say, oh, I hit a grind point. The grind point isn't the part that's killing me with the Ascent. What's killing me with the Ascent is going on a mission that's for level 3. And then if I make a left-hand turn down an alley by accident, I'm into level 20 enemies. I'm like, whoa, what?
I have seen a few people mention that too. And I'm like, what's that about? Yeah.
And I even I was level 7. I was doing a mission that required me to be level 2. All the enemies I encountered on that mission track were level 14. So I'm like, okay. Or you get a side mission before you get a main mission. So you're like, hey, I'm going to do this side mission to get credits and everything else. But you get this side mission in an area you can't access until you're 3 or 4 main missions ahead. And it's like the pacing and how they unlock things is really weird. It's almost like they built the game for you to rush through the main campaign and then backtrack. But I'm trying to manage and go around and level up so I don't run into these grind points. But the game really isn't conducive to that either. It's kind of this mismatch where you don't really have a flow, where I'm nervous about going to one side of the map just to realize I can't open the door at the other side, even though I'm of level to do that side mission. That's the really frustrating thing about it. And what's really disappointing for it is it suffers the same problem that Cyberpunk 2077 suffers from. It's a bad RPG. Period. End of story. I care nothing about the storyline of this game. It is so painfully generic that I don't even remember the character names. And the actual RPG system's put skill points into damage. Put skill points into this. Put skill points into that. That's it.
Yeah. But it was said that not to cut you off, but it said the RPG part of it felt like someone said, hey, last minute, hey, let's put RPGs in this. Yeah.
Because there's the biggest complaint I have with the whole RPG attachment to something is I expect, RPGs for role-playing games. So, aesthetics of decision-making and things usually, to me, make an RPG. The Ascent is as much an RPG as Horizon Zero Dawn is. Mm-hmm. And we all know how I feel about that game being called an RPG.
Yeah, there's a difference between RPG light and an actual RPG.
I saw a developer say this, and I think it's incredibly brilliant. You cannot call your game an RPG just because it has a skill tree. We are past the point of that being an RPG thing. Action games have it. Devil May Cry has it, for fuck's sakes. I'm not going to sit there and be
Ori has a really good skill tree, but I wouldn't call it an RPG.
Exactly.
Right.
You can, I know genre lines blur and, this is a Metroidvania. This is a Castlevania, except, Konami can't spell what Castlevania is, except for the anime show. But everything else, I know they kind of blend together, but if you market it as expansive RPG and storytelling, the big thing with the Ascent is when they market it, they're the story. And so far, it's one of the most forgettable stories I've played this year. And that kind of sucks because they kind of harped on about it.
Right. See, I'm not that far into kind of go with that. But a lot of the things that you're saying, I've seen other people like say, like it's almost as if like there weren't enough meetings about what the ascent was supposed to be amongst the teams. Like people were off kind of doing things and then kind of putting a game together, and it's sort of like all over the place. And it's so to hear that, I'm like, it's kind of disappointing because also you look at like the UI, and I'm like, man, this UI is kind of convoluted. But then at the same time, when you find it, you're like, oh, it's not convoluted. It just, again, it feels like something that doesn't make any sense. It's like, it doesn't really matter. You're just throwing things into spots.
Also, Eric, did you play the game long enough to get frustrated with the menus?
No, immediately.
All right. Right stick over. All right. Click this.
Right.
Why did I open a different menu?
Right. Then it's like, you go to hit, like, okay, I literally have to hit B to go back to this. Whereas any other UI, you just like, you start moving over. It's like, I need to go to here, to here, to here. This was like, oh, no. You push over on the stick. That's pushing you all the way over to the next side of me. I'm like, wait, no, I just want to go here and line this. Yeah. Hope, again, there's some patching that maybe needs to happen. I don't know if it will happen. They said they're looking at feedback. They want feedback.
Yep.
And again, it's just disappointing because I almost think this game would have been better if it was like I know you said people are treating it like Diablo when they do the combat, but it almost feels like it should just be like just go in and shoot shit and blow shit up, and and then when we power up, we level up, we can move some things into a slot on the skill tree and just keep it moving. Yeah. But it doesn't really know what it wants to be. Yeah. And it's a shame because particle effects, like visually, the game in that manner is great. The character models and the actual character creator, and I'm like, this is hideous looking. I'm like you said, you don't care. I'm like, okay, well, I'll give them some blue or green hair because that's punk rock and cyberpunk-ish, but you don't really have necessarily like any attachment to it.
Yeah, no penis gauge 4 out of 10. Speaking of penis gauging, Sam, I hear you got to play something really exciting over the weekend.
Okay, that was a segue. All right. The rumors are true at the very last minute. I mean, what am I doing? There was no NDA. People were sharing. You saw me sharing. I got to try the technical preview. I don't know how much footage or screenshots or whatever y'all looked at from me and other people sharing it. So I'm not sure even what to say, but like just to give a recap for anyone who was under a rock on Twitter during that like 3-4 day period, it was mainly versus bots. They did open it up very briefly once they got enough data tested on the bots. They opened it up for like a 3 to 4 hour window for 4 players versus 4 players, but it was mainly bot testing because bots are new to Infinite, and they upped the difficulty of them every day. So they went from Marine level difficulty, which is like level 2 out of 4, to ODST level, and then to Spartan level. The Marine level bots, honestly, were kind of pushovers. Like, they could kill you, but it was only if they were working together. The ODST level bots were not. I will say that. They were, they got double-digit kills on the leaderboards. It was very surprising to watch. And another thing is, I love Gears. Don't get me wrong. I love Gears. But you know how when you're playing Gears 5, you can tell if there's a bot? You can tell it's fairly obvious if it's not a real player in the way it acts. That's not the case here. They act the way real players act. They make the kinds of mistakes real players would make. I'm very fascinated by the decision-making and how the bots were even designed here. But anyways, things that actually matter, the gameplay. It feels like, I might be tempting fate, it feels like 343 got it right with a mix of Halo Reach and 5. That's what it feels like. It feels like it's mainly Halo Reach, but there's just a couple of things from 5 they've pulled in that make sense. Like, you can still clamber up. You can still sprint, that sort of thing. It feels very clean. It looks good to me. Not the best thing I've ever seen, but it looked good to me playing on a Series X. I'm sure it doesn't look anywhere near as good as an Xbox One or anything like that. It feels very good. The gunplay feels very solid. There's a surprising amount of new weapons. I will say that kind of took me by surprise in a good way, is that it wasn't just relying on, here's the old standbys. It's like, yeah, there is the assault rifle and the battle rifle and the gravity hammer, but there's a lot of new stuff. It's not like 1 or 2 new guns. I would say it's about 50% new guns. And that really felt good because it felt like this is familiar, but this is a new sandbox. There is new stuff you have to learn here. And I like that. I don't want it to be completely familiar. I want it to be like, hey, this is a neat, bulky gun. What does this thing do? Let's find out. And I pull the trigger, and it's like, oh, it shoots a spike that kills that guy and sends him halfway across the map. That's neat. I like that. That's good. Very physics-driven, which kind of surprised me. What you see in the trailer, that's real. Like, they weren't just showing off the trailer. If you throw a plasma grenade at a power weapon, it will cause it to fly up in the air. So you can jump up and grab it out of the air if you're being careful and how it all works. The grappling hook feels really good. That was available on 2 of the 3 maps. It kind of, we'll say it took a little bit more time than I would have expected to get used to, because it's not very obvious where the cutoff point is on how far out you can grapple. So I think that's going to take some more getting used to for players. But once you figured it out, it was really cool, going up ledges, hooking onto enemies, and then bringing your rifle butt in to smack them in the face when you reach them. It felt very good. I played it several hours every single day while it was available. Any moment I could. So, yeah, I liked it. I had a good time. Do you have any questions?
Yeah. Did you get teabagged by a bot?
I did not. A friend of mine did. That was very funny. We couldn't believe it, but that was pretty funny.
You know what? You remember a show or 2 ago we talked about our next generation wishes, and better AI was at the top of that list. And just the moment I saw that bot just grace his balls across someone's forehead, I was like, Halo Infinite Game of the Year 2021. Let's go. But no, for real. It was interesting to see so many people come off it high, of people that necessarily weren't high on Halo in the first place. And I always appreciate those kind of viewpoints more, because when people are really high on something and then they're like, oh, it's really, really good. It's like me with Baldur's Gate. Like, are you going to get the most definitive, critical version opinion of Baldur's Gate 3 out of me? Maybe. But, there's going to be things I glance over because I love the series so much. But to see people that weren't interested that much in Halo Infinite get in, also you bastards not being interested in it and gang in, I hate you guys. But but to see people have positive impressions of that and say this feels great, this responds great, and everything else, I'm happy. I'm happy as happy can be. They nailed the campaign. Wow. We're bueno.
Yeah, that was kind of my takeaway. I have to say, it was really cool watching and seeing so much sharing, and the stuff that I saw did look really good. So I said, hey man, I know people will worry, well, what's Halo gonna do against the battlefields of the world? And God knows right now with Call of Duty, we'll get into that stuff.
That's a whole other discussion right there. Yeah.
Right.
Call of who?
But I'm looking at it and I'm like, from what I'm looking at, aesthetic, everything else, it kind of looks like they're definitely preparing to try to steal some attention from other shooters. Vibrant, colorful, I guess when they get into customizations and things like that, it seems like they're also, from what I've heard, and not because I didn't have hands on with it, but I did hear a little bit of Ain speaking about it on Xbox Expansion Pass. And he said it sounds like they're very much trying to get it to a point to onboard new players and to not get people turned off.
I would say that as well. Yeah. You both, Nick, perhaps you to a lesser extent, but you both have a background in Halo. You've both played Halo games before. So I didn't feel the need to dive into this, but yeah, the weapon drills were really cool. It is really cool that for every gun in the game, they have these ranges where you can go and test out and see what it actually does and that sort of thing. I will say another thing. I was very apprehensive about the whole removing red versus blue. I wasn't sure about that at all, but I will say it actually works. It works really well because you get an outline of who's your ally and who isn't. And I don't know. I think maybe with the art direction, it's hard to put into words, but it does work out. And so it's cool because you spend all that time, customizing your Spartan and making the armor look cool with the colors you want. And then it would always get overridden 90% of the time with a dark red or a dark blue or a bright red. And that's not the case anymore. It will show up no matter what team you're on, but you still can easily identify who your allies are and who the enemy is. I was very surprised about that. I would love to know more about like how they got that to work visually.
I can't wait to smack someone around as a pink Spartan. It's so much fun.
just an eyesore, just a walking ocular migraine, grapple hooking across the map.
The pink streak is what I'll be known as in Halo Infinite. But yeah, like, let me put it this way: it's been a long time since I've been excited for Halo, because Halo 5 fell flat for me like day one. So, and the Halo 5 was 2015. So this is we're closing in on 6 years since a proper Halo game, and with it doing so well in terms of people's impressions and everything else. And no offense, like, I love my previews and everything that the people I know that write previews and everything else. I appreciate the work they do, but when someone who isn't so good with words just goes, "This fucking plays amazing," I'm like, "Yeah, buddy, let's go." Like, that's what I'm talking about, is like seeing more people having positive reception. And I was just really impressed, as Eric said, so many people sharing gameplay and being like, "Look how cool this looks." It wasn't like, it never felt forced. It just felt so natural. People were like, "Oh, look what I did with the grappling hook." Like, you're watching all the old esports guys from Halo being like, "Hey, look, I could do a 360 loop-de-loop and rocket launch you in the back of the head." And I'm like, "Oh, great. I forgot how sweaty Halo can be." But it looks great. And if they nail that campaign, Halo Infinite is going to be special. And I'm excited for that.
Mm-hmm. No, it definitely has that feel again. Like, people can say what they will about Halo, that it doesn't have the same in today's world of shooters, it doesn't have the same gravitas, but it can get that back. And I definitely feel like, amongst, like, I don't even want to say like the hardcore, because that sort of gives like a connotation, like it belongs to a certain group. And I think that's what they're trying to break beyond. Just from what I'm looking at, the aesthetic of what I'm looking at, it looks like Halo, but it looks like it's moving forward to be more welcoming to a new generation of gamers, which is something that they have to address. They have to think about that. They can't think in terms of protecting the old community, like, you have to be able to move it forward while also, you address the old community and you make it feel like Halo, but you also do things to bring in new players and make them feel welcome. Because if someone comes in and they feel like, they don't understand what's going on and they get washed, they're done. They're like, "I'm not playing that. I don't feel like I can compete. I don't feel like I'm having any fun with it." You have to make people feel like, the work that they're putting in, getting better, is actually progressing them. They're not just going to get destroyed because they're playing against somebody who's been playing it for years.
Especially good if you're going to do free to play, which is what they're doing for the multiplayer. Yeah,
exactly. And I think, and I don't want to glance over, Sam, what you said about the red versus blue. I think that's very deliberate. And I don't want to like invoke the gods of Fortnite and everything else, but to be honest, you're up against that. So customization, look, is all a big part of that. Aesthetic is all a big part of what makes those games tick. It's individuality. Like, look at my dude, and then I get to see my dude. He, like you said, he wasn't washed out with red or blue hues. It's my guy, but I can identify him on the other team. All those little details go into these things now, and it's the attention to detail like that, which is it more than anything else. Like, they're taking it very seriously. Like Nick said, if they add, or if they go about the campaign and the ideas around that the same way, from what we've seen in this small sample of the flight test, like Nick said, Halo could be very special come the end of the year or whenever it does launch.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like, everyone's like, "Well, Halo's dead compared to what it used to be." And to close out this conversation, I will say that before Doom 2016 came out, that was a dead franchise. And Doom 2016 blew the game up, made old Doom fans happy, and introduced people and lowered the entry and went, "Hey, if this is your first Doom game, awesome. Here it is." And I think that's kind of what you said about, lowering the entry point of skill, because Halo has always had, it's like Gears. You have to go in and suck for a while, and then you'll start to do better, especially Gears in particular. Like, I sucked at Gears for a long time, and now Gnasher is life and Gnasher is love.
I still suck at Gears. But also, I do not put the same amount of time into it.
See, but Eric strives for that consistency. He sucked then, he sucks now. It's all right.
Yeah. But I think what's so important, and I think a lot of multiplayer developers are starting to learn this, is that a low entry point with a high skill ceiling, while hard to achieve, is the optimum point. What you have to learn to play multiplayer is incredibly basic. But how you use those tools you're presented will be based on your skill level. Like me using a grappling hook versus the guy who did the 360 spin thing is going to be a skill ceiling related thing. Because I'm going to see people doing that, and I'm going to go, hey, I want to try using the grappling hook like that. And I'll start using it in a different way, and maybe I'll find something that works for me. And that's really cool. And I think that's the most exciting part, mainly grappling hooks. Grappling hooks and skewers are always, I can grapple my friends and I can skewer them in the butt and teabag them and be rewarded for it. Mm-hmm. Win-win. Speaking of things that aren't win-win, Blizzard Activision is they going through it still, as they should. We covered this on last week's show. There's been a few developments. Sam, I'm going to get, before we get to the firing, can you just give a brief overview, because I didn't get a chance to read it, of what the second lawsuit that was levied against them a few hours ago kind of entails?
Yeah, I'm going to be blunt with you. I was actually deep covering their actual Activision Blizzard's earnings at the time when I learned about that. So seriously, go read it if you want the extra details. The extreme TLDR version is that investors are not happy, and they are basically calling them out and saying leadership isn't doing what it needs to be doing, and the wheels need to be in motion. And by wheels in motion, meaning heads need to roll. That's an extreme TLDR, but this stuff is not going away. It's piling up. It's piling on. Do you want me to go over the firing itself as well, or?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Why not just dive into brass tacks, right? Why not go into the thing that matters? So J. Allen Brack, president of Blizzard, he's gone, effective immediately today. Effective today, Mike Ybarra, formerly of Xbox, is stepping in alongside Jen O'Neill, formerly the head of Vicarious Visions, which y'all will recall it was previously a support studio under Activision. They did the Tony Hawk games as well on their own, and then they were moved under Blizzard, now working on the Diablo 2 remaster. So Mike Ybarra and Jen O'Neill are now leading Blizzard, co-leading Blizzard together. So that happened. I'm going to be blunt. Even with this new development, I kind of said my piece last week. And because, and Nick, I know you said some stuff as well. So Eric, I'm actually curious what you think of all this, because you weren't with us. And I'm sure you have something you'd like to add to this, or just a take on it, or just a different opinion even than what we might have so far.
I don't even know where to unravel all of it. It is a clusterfuck to the 30th degree. I don't even know. I mean, I don't share a lot of things I share a lot of our gaming world with Roz. I'll talk to her about things, but that one I was this one kind of breaks beyond just the gaming world into just, this is shit level humanity stuff, right? So I was talking to her about something, showing her. She was just whoa, the Bill Cosby suite thing. I'm what? What are you doing? What is that? So I won't go back into what's been going on over the last few weeks. Let's just kind of deal with what happened today and these moves. And the first thing that kind of came to my mind was simply rats jumping ship in some cases, maybe. And I don't know if that's happening. Oh, like you said, starting as the stockholder thing. I don't know if there's some other things coming down the pipe, actual maybe charges of some sort, because this thing is blowing up more and more, and it's not just a story. It is I said, how far behind this lawsuit will an actual investigation start to happen? So I wonder if they feel like this is like their way of kind of getting some people out of the way because they're going to have to start dealing with some legal stuff. We're far from this being over. This one is a big one. And I know we've been here like with Quantic Dream, which this story right now kind of pales in comparison to some of the stuff we heard there. And then Ubisoft, who I still think are doing a lot of sweeping under the rug. I think Activision would love to be able to sweep some things under the rug, but it's too big now. You know, and a lot of this, I don't know how much of it is just reactionary to things that are coming, or they're thinking that this is the best way to start addressing things and kind of like get some of the heat off of them. But again, I still don't think they're addressing the people who really need to be addressed in this thing.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that wholeheartedly. I mean, I would even... Me, as someone who is not at Blizzard and is not affected and is not a minority in that way, but I will say it is possible for two things to be true, right? Like, J. Allen Brack was named by name in the lawsuit. Mm-hmm. It is entirely possible that it's a good thing he's been ousted, but at the same time, maybe certain members of Activision Blizzard are hoping that there's a sacrificial goat here, that some of the heat gets taken off. And their toes need to be held to the fire.
Yeah.
I don't want to dive too much into this because, frankly, it was a lot of nothing. And, frankly, they just reiterated a lot of the same, well, we're going to commit to a diverse workplace and anti-harassment and firing people who have breached our processes and all that without actually giving specific examples, just saying those lines, you know, the corporate boilerplate over and over again. And it wasn't an investor call. I get that. But nonetheless, one thing that did pardon me, I'm just pulling up the Q2 results, kind of stand out to me, is they did not address any concerns from the employee walkout. Like the employee walkout had several very specific, not difficult to understand demands, and none of those were addressed at all. And, you know, that did not go unnoticed by me, but neither did the fact that they said, quote, if we experience prolonged periods of adverse publicity, significantly reduce productivity or other negative consequences relating to this matter, our business likely would be adversely impacted. So I hate to say this, I hate to boil it down to this, but at the end of the day, if the only thing these board members are going to listen to is not the people crying out in pain, but their bottom line being hurt, maybe their bottom line needs to be hurt. I'm not telling you to make a judgment call or anything. I'm not making a judgment call on me. I'm just putting that out there into the ether. That's all I'm going to say on this.
Yeah. And like, again, not without going into too many specifics, I do still think that there are higher ups who people really want to hear more from. And you know who I'm talking about in particular. And what this person had to say really in the grand scheme of things meant nothing. It was like a fingernail scratch on the surface of something. And it's like accountability is first and foremost, you know? So.
Yeah. Here's the thing. And I wholeheartedly believe this. And this just summarizes, I feel like we have to beat this horse continuously at this point. But what basically sums up my thought progress on this is that, you know, don't get me wrong, Brack was a good step, especially as Sam noted, he was named. But it's only a first step. Because if Brack knew about it, then others knew about it that worked below him. And others that were in the same position as him knew as well. And if you knew about this, and I don't want people to blame like individual employees because it's hard to stand up as an employee if your abuse is coming from management down. But if you're in management and someone below you is abusing your employees, that's on you. That's your job to protect your employees at the end of the day. And whether Kotick wants to take responsibility for it or not, at the end of the day, all this abuse, he can't just pretend like he didn't know what was going on in the day-to-day operations of a company that pays him $50 million bonuses and whatnot. Exactly. You can't just sit there and naively state, well, we didn't know, so you can't blame us. At the end of the day, change needs to come quickly, and it really casts a shadow on people that exited Blizzard prior. I saw someone speak up today, and they're like, wow, it's super weird that Jeff Kaplan left Overwatch and Blizzard 3 months ago. And I'm like, you know, I'm not going to point fingers. I don't want to make assumptions about anyone or anything like that. but there was a large amount of Blizzard leadership that has been exiting lately. Maybe they left because they were tired of the culture. Who knows? But regardless, this is affecting their bottom line, and I'm immensely proud of the gaming culture in general. There's very rarely can I say I'm proud of streamers or influencers or anything else, but seeing some websites, because they're able to take a hard stand against covering Blizzard, that's one thing. But to see World of Warcraft streamers that have built their entire career on being part of the World of Warcraft community go, you know what, fuck this. I can play Final Fantasy 14 or I can play something else. It doesn't matter. If people want to follow me, people will follow me. That kind of stuff has an impact. You're drawing away numbers. People canceling their subscriptions hurts their bottom line. You not buying games for them hurts the bottom line. It all matters. So don't buy Activision. I know Sam didn't say it. I will say it. Don't support Activision Blizzard until every single one of those people is held accountable. And so that there's justice for the people that worked at Activision Blizzard. It's not going to fit. Firing people won't fix what happened, but it prevents it happening again. And that's what matters.
Yeah. And it's I mean, Sam just alluded to, it's like sometimes, sadly, the bottom line is the only language that these people speak, you know, and 100%, Nick, you can't get a multi-million-dollar bonus and then cry like I didn't know. What are you being paid for? You know, and again, if you're getting this huge bonus because of how much money flows through there and the investors are happy with that, they can throw you that, but you're not involved, or you are involved and you're sweeping under the rug. In any case, you don't get to be in that position and not get hit with some arrows.
Yep.
It just does. You're the head of the company. So whether you knew everything, a little bit, or the majority, it still falls in your lap.
Yep.
Right. And 100% on what you're saying about support, because we're seeing, you know, let's go back to Ubisoft. All those reports came out and people talked about it, but Assassin's Creed Valhalla was still like the biggest game of, you know, last year, still making money. And what do they care? We did this. We're still making money. You're still interested in our games. And then we can just come out and tell you, well, those people were either reprimanded or they went to sensitivity training, which none of that we can actually like say for sure. It's just a thing that can be said. And we're supposed to go, oh, great. You addressed it. Bottom line.
Yep.
You know?
I agree. But we'll see more. You know, this is going to be in the news cycle a lot, you know, as things develop and as this lawsuit continues to kick off. This is going to be something that's going to be dragged through over the next upcoming months and everything else. Like every time, like when we start hitting like when this lawsuit starts rolling, it's going to be like the Epic versus Apple thing. It's going to be courtroom. We're going to hear stories. It's going to be hard, and there's going to be a lot to cover. And I think the gaming space as a whole has done phenomenal in how it's handled it. And I really can't point out anyone being ignorant about this. And I really appreciate that we can actually come together over something. Now, it had to get to this point for everyone to come together, but hey, coming together is worth everything. Mm-hmm. But on to numbers, because this week is full of a lot of numbers, because financials. So Jim Ryan put on his dancing shoes and did a great interview with GameIndustry.biz, where he talked about the success and the rollout of the PlayStation 5, and of course the challenges that Sony has had in bringing it to market with the chip shortage and everything else. I deeply encourage you, like anything else, we talk about the stuff that is covered in this, but please don't hesitate to read the source material, because there are clips that we just simply do not have time to constantly pass over. And I think this was definitely one of Ryan's better interviews in terms of how he talked about the success and plans they had and whatnot. So it's definitely a good read. Short bullet points. PlayStation 5 has sold over 10 million units. God damn it. So over 10 million units sold. It is officially outpacing the PlayStation 4 by a month. It took exactly 1 month more for the PlayStation 4 to hit this same milestone. So even with chip shortages and everything else, PlayStation's still topping the PlayStation 4. Ryan hinted that their monthly active users and their services were showing double-digit growth. He did not give any immense detail in what those actual analytics were, but double-digit growth is always good when you're talking numbers. And he also gave some insight into some of the sales successes that they've had with their PlayStation 5 software, such as Spider-Man Miles Morales, which sold an incredible 6.5 million units. As well as Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, which with a month on the market sold 1.1 million copies. And Returnal, the mega hit from Housemarque, has sold roughly around 600,000 copies. And also worth noting, MLB The Show had a record year with over 2 million copies sold alongside 4 million players, which of course is helped by the Xbox Game Pass subscriptions numbers. So breakout success for a lot of games, great hardware numbers. Any thoughts on any of this?
Just right off the top of my head, I'll just say that 10 million consoles sold slightly faster than the PS4 is impressive. Imagine if they were actually able to make and ship even more of them like they want to without a shortage. That's my immediate thought right there.
I'm sure they
Eric,
feel the same way.
Yeah, no, I'm sure they do.
Right.
I'm sure they do. Yep. Anything jump out at you beyond that, Eric?
No, same. The thing that jumps out to me, gaming's healthy.
Yeah, it's good. I'm trying to think of anything else. Like Ratchet feels fairly obvious. Miles Morales is continuing to chug along. It's doing well. I guess one thing is like 2 million sold, 4 million players being the best ever for an MLB game this early on. I got a feeling MLB 2022 hits Game Pass as well. That seems pretty likely. I think they're probably, especially a game like that is like, I don't play it, but my understanding is they make a killing on those cards. That's just ask poor Matt Piscatella how much he's spent in there, So
yeah, typically those games do like any like the like MLBs, the sports games in general. Like the people who play those are really into them. It's like they invest
exactly.
So
exactly.
But that's my takeaway. I mean, like you, imagine if they were able to get more units out there, but just in general, gaming is at a fever pitch.
Yep,
100%.
Yep,
and we'll continue that discussion into fever pitch because also this same week, Xbox announced, Microsoft as a whole, announced their financial numbers. So of course we get insight into Xbox's numbers. So it was stated that Xbox Series hardware is the fastest selling Xbox console, and I believe that now, Sam, correct me if I'm wrong. That's in the same time period, right, from the launch of the other consoles, right? It's in like a
yes, it's like month to month. I saw some confusion about that, but it is within the same time.
Okay, frame. I just wanted to clarify that because I saw some people not understanding quite what that metric was.
Sure.
We learned the gaming revenue as a whole has increased by 357 million, which is up 11%. While services and content numbers suffered a slight 4% decrease overall, this was reportedly due to lower amounts of third-party titles. It has kind of been small. There has been a lot less AAA third-party games hitting stores right now, but holidays should pick that up. They did say, however, this decrease was counterbalanced by Game Pass subscriber numbers increasing, as well as good growth in terms of their first-party game sales. We did not receive an update on Xbox Game Pass subscriber count. I saw a lot of people getting upset about that. They're only going to do that when they hit milestones with it now, I feel. Like when we hit like big numbers that they want to talk about, that's when we'll hear about those numbers more frequently. Some interesting stuff, though, is Xbox hardware has increased a whopping 172% due to the sales of Xbox Series S and S consoles. And once again, Xbox is also dealing with some supply constraint issues, just like PlayStation, in terms of, the conductors and everything else. I don't know how else to phrase this other than gaming is the healthiest it's ever been. And that post-COVID, I know we're not past COVID, But that post-COVID drop that everyone was so worried about has not managed to made itself available yet. So I think we're hanging to the renaissance of gaming right now in terms of growth and everything else. But maybe I'm just too positive. Anyone have any negativity to spread on this? Bananas, watermelon physics?
I literally put out a tweet going, yeah, Xbox and PlayStation seem healthy. Seems real cool. And I got dunked on by a ton of people, so I don't even know what's going on right now. I don't know, man. Sorry, I don't normally share that kind of stuff. That one was weird. That one was just weird, even by the Twitter asylum standards. No, gaming's healthy. If you pick something that you should be happy with, and if you aren't happy with it, pick another one, because that one's going to be healthy too, just in a slightly different way. Like, I don't know how many ways there are to say that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, at this point, we're approaching the 1 year mark on these consoles being out. And I mean, even the Switch still chugging along. I mean, yeah, it's interesting because last gen it wasn't so much this. Like it's very much balanced and even across the board as far as demand and people purchasing actual hardware. So yeah. So yeah, people are finding other things to like glom onto.
Well, see, the interesting thing I saw because all these numbers were released in 24 hours, because financials. But the thing I kept seeing is, well, PlayStation's still like selling Xbox and everything else, but it's like, yeah, but what people need to realize is these companies work off internal metrics. Yes, you're going to compare yourself to your competition, obviously, but if your growth is up 172%. I don't know too many investors that are going to go, well, why aren't we selling as many as PlayStation? They don't care what PlayStation's doing. They care about the 172% they just got. That's what they're excited about. And that's what excites me is like both these companies just had their fastest selling launch in their history. I don't know how you could be negative about that. Like, I know people will find a way, but it's just so exciting right now. With the games we're getting, with the hardware we have, no reason to be upset. Unless, of course, you were hoping for Horizon Forbidden West to come out in 2021. Segway?
No, that one.
No.
Not feeling it. Not feeling it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So I think Jeff Grubb kicked this one off. And then it was corroborated by a couple other people, including Jason Schreier, is that rumor is internally that PlayStation has bumped Horizon Forbidden West to Q1 of 2022. This is not official. PlayStation has not come out and said this. They also did not come out and deny this either. Look, I didn't need a Jeff Grubb leak or even a Jason Schreier report to tell you this was coming in 2022. It's August. We haven't heard about it, and people are like, it'll still launch in September. There's a lot of competition in October, November timeframe. It's heating up, and I think this game does phenomenal. I think it does blockbusters uncontended in Q1. Like, you can drop that shit in February when there's not a bunch of games, and why try to pit it against Battlefield or Halo or anything else? There just doesn't seem to be a point, especially if you can just spend another couple of months polishing it.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah, I mean, Eric, if you have something you want to say, like, you can feel free to jump on it. But like for me, it's just, unfortunately, it's obvious. Like, yeah, I can't pretend I'm surprised about this. I can't pretend I'm not going to say I'm not disappointed. Like, would it have been nice to get Horizon in November as well this year? Sure. It would have been nice. It would have been real cool. But, I mean, they didn't give a date this late for a reason. They didn't even commit to the fact it would 100% hit this year. Herman Holst outright said, hey, lack of motion capture really screwed us over. I'm paraphrasing, but that is what he said. Like,
yep.
I can't be shocked. And also another thing is if it's been delayed to the first quarter of next year, if you actually think about it, it's the shift to another year that mentally is the big thing. It hasn't been delayed that much. Right. Like if it was going delayed in November, but now it's February. Okay, November to December, December to January, January to February. It's like a 3-month delay. It's not actually that bad. It's just the fact that it's from 2021 to 2022 that kind of, I think, to our brains makes it sound worse than it actually is. But it'll be fine. Look, just drop it. The first one came out, Horizon Zero Dawn came out on February 28th? It was the last day of February. Just drop it there. Just drop it on the 5th anniversary of the first game. There you go.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, people have to get out of this. Well, I say have to. Do whatever the hell you want to do. But get this mentality out of your head that all your gaming has to be done today. I know we're not promised tomorrow. I get that. I understand that. But, hopefully there are many years ahead for all of us. But, yeah, gaming is it's a marathon, not a sprint. So, and we have infinitely more games at our disposal than we have in many generations prior, right? So when a game was delayed, let's say like in the 6th, 7th generation or whatever, it you could feel it a little bit more, because you had some games in between there. You may have had a AA here or whatever. So when a AAA game got delayed, it was like a bigger thing. But nowadays you have so many games that are like pulling for your attention. So honestly, if you're going to put on the cap of the console warrior or the person who's always screaming that it's dry out here, and you only play and you only look for big budget AAA games, you're always going to feel this way. You're always going to feel like, which truth be told, I'm seeing more and more people seem to be a lot better, disappointed, but a lot more understanding, a lot better, because they know ultimately a delay means a better game, typically means a better game, could mean a better game. We've seen plenty of examples where it goes the other way, but I think most people compartmentalize and figure out, you know what? Take your time, do what you need to do. Now, if you release that game after the delay and it's a turd, you got a whole different problem on your hands, But I think most people are okay with a game being delayed. I did see some people saying, or kind of throwing out there, like, did the delay have anything to do with the PS4 version? And some people kind of said, if it's being delayed to take care of the PS4 version, I'm not good with that, especially if you're a PS5 owner and you're not really thinking about PS4. I get that too. That's not a completely unfair argument to have. But yeah, delays are just a part of the game now. And especially, again, pandemic years.
Yep. If you have to delay because you have to focus on the lesser generation console, I understand people's frustration with that. But at the end of the day, if someone buys a copy of this game, it needs to run on the platform you have it on. We went through this conversation with Cyberpunk, right? Oh, it runs fine on my Xbox Series X. I don't know what you're complaining about on your Xbox One. It's the same kind of argument. It needs to work on the platforms you promise it to. If you need to,
why didn't your broke ass buy a Series X or a PS5? You broke ass.
Yeah, I mean, it's don't get me wrong. It's definitely fine if Horizon Forbidden West looks way better and has 60 FPS on the PS5. I'm sure both of those things will be true, but it needs to be a decent game for PS4 owners. Yeah, I don't think any of us disagree with that. We can go back and forth on the whole, we have before, on whether it should be coming to the PS4 at all. But if the company promises it for that, then it needs to work for that.
Exactly.
That's how it works. And again, we could have this conversation whether they should, but the same will be true of God of War. The same will be true of Gran Turismo 7. Yep. If you need more time to ensure that those versions are good, then...
Well, wasn't it even detailed with the delay for Gran Turismo's? Wasn't the whole delay with Gran Turismo because they needed to work on the PlayStation 4 version? Or was that just a rumor that was part of the reason they got pushed back?
That was a report from Andy Robinson, I want to say, at VGC. And he's a good journalist. He's gotten some good scoops. He's got good sources. So I don't doubt him or anything, but that is technically unconfirmed.
Okay.
But I mean, that was what he said, is that unlike Horizon and God of War, which have had PS4 versions from the beginning, that the PS4 version of Gran Turismo 7 was a recent mandate from on high. Maybe that's the case. Maybe it isn't.
Makes sense.
Regardless, it needs to be good. So,
yep. And it's same thing. Kina got delayed by a month because Sam and Eric breathed too heavily on the game.
I can't even believe that. That just like that one was just the universe saying, "Hey, it could have been worse. It's just a month, but like you flew too close to the sun again.
Yeah,
you're running your mouths."
Yeah, but now the game's set to come out. Like, when's Deathloop come out? That's September what?
I don't know. I'm not even saying the date.
No, we're not going to say it.
So September 14th, you get Deathloop, maybe. And September 21st, you get Kina. So you guys got a week to beat Deathloop before you got to beat Kina. So no pressure.
You know what? I actually like those odds. Deathloop is not. I don't get the impression that's supposed to be a massive 100-hour game or anything. So I think that's all right.
Yeah,
that seems like a I played through it and I'm going to go and do it this way type of game.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh boy. So now comes the screwy topic. So we got our PlayStation 5 SSD solution. It's interesting. I admittedly did not read a whole lot on it because I simply do not care about expanding my PlayStation 5 storage. I'll leave my thoughts on the back end of this, but there are some nuances to it. So PlayStation did list all the compatible SSDs that you can use. I'm not going to get into the installation thing because I know there's 30 other podcasts you can listen to that are going to talk about this for 2 hours. And wherever the case may be, my only thoughts on that is plug and play simplicity is nice. Otherwise is fine as well. Options are options, wherever the case may be. It's interesting that this is expanded storage is being rolled out in beta, but whatever. It's been rolling out to beta testers. They're basically, I think you have to opt into that for the PlayStation. I don't know.
You do.
I'm not opted into Xbox or PlayStation Insiders because I don't need weirder ways for my consoles not to work, so I don't do that.
Well, that's why we didn't get our Halo invites, Nick.
Damn it. Just not insider enough. So there's some nuances to it. PlayStation basically put a disclaimer saying, hey, if you install a third-party SSD into your console, we're not responsible for anything that may or may not happen to your console, which makes sense. A lot of times if you do modifications and stuff, it voids your warranty or whatever the case may be. Kind of sucks that this is for your memory expansion, that they're kind of like, this isn't our responsibility. It feels kind of weird. But how do you guys feel about it? I'm not invested in this because I'm not expanding my storage, but I know both of you have Xbox Series X SSD pluggy things. So are you guys interested in expanding your PlayStation 5 storage?
Sam, you want to go first? Or
Eric, I was about to say, I've been running my mouth a lot. You want to say anything?
I probably not immediately, and not because of any difficulty, not because I think their method is convoluted. I actually think their method is, on the PS5 in particular, is actually easier than it was on the PS3 and PS4. Yep. Right? I do want to throw out there, I think people are making a much bigger deal about all of this memory expansion storage stuff than it really needs to be, because in the particular case right now with PS5, this isn't for the masses yet. It's a beta, right? So the disclaimers are applied to people who are beta testing. And in a lot of cases, when it comes to beta testing things, you will get like this kind of disclaimer, like, hey, we're trying to figure this out. It may do this, it may do that, but you've kind of signed the waiver to say, hey, you're going to help us figure this out, right? And I think the biggest thing that you're kind of seeing across the board is, again, it falls into the category of people having this desire and this need to prove which platform is better than the other platform, right? If you just look at it from the general consumer sense, when this thing goes mainstream, it's going to fall exactly to the people who it's meant to fall to. Like in the beta test, people are bringing up the soccer mom, who the soccer mom's not going to know what to do. The soccer mom's probably not beta testing the PS5 expansion. And I don't really think that's like a fair comparison, because, it's like, what were we gonna say? Like all soccer moms don't know how to have tech. You know, some soccer moms. I mean, Sarah Bond's probably a soccer mom.
Oh God,
she can run circles around you when it comes to tech, right?
Hashtag not all soccer moms. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
I'm sorry.
So actually, to Eric's point though, there is a lack of clarity on this. I watched a gentleman who I don't follow on Twitter, but he's someone who's followed by a bunch of people I know. He was like, SSD upgrade for my PS5 on point. It posted a screenshot of the SSD he bought. And he was like, I'm so glad it meets all the spec requirements and everything else. Spent my $200. I'm good to go. And someone went, dude, that isn't a supported one. That's a Gen 2, not a Gen 3.
Mm-hmm.
And he went, oh. So he had to cancel his order, buy another one, and everything else. The problem with using those components, and I understand, like, people are like, well, why didn't PlayStation just do proprietary like Xbox did with the Seagate expansion drive? I don't know if people remember, but we kind of roasted them for doing proprietary memory for a very long time.
And let's be fair, people roasted Microsoft for doing proprietary. Yeah, on both sides when they first announced that they were doing proprietary, but now all of a sudden that's the wave again, going into the people who feel this need to try to prove which one is better. I mean, Sony's kind of done this way since the PS3, right? The difference in this one is you're not replacing, you're expanding. Now, to answer your first question, Nick, if this was a complete replacement to add more space, I probably would do it. But I'm kind of at a point now where it's like I'm getting more into a groove of I'm playing this, I'm kind of done with it, I'll move on to the next. Only for the fact that this isn't cheap, you know? And I've been on record saying, like, I got the Seagate expansion because I had the credit to do so. I don't know if I would have just gone and done it. And that's not a problem for anybody who did, you know, like Sam, I know you got one, but you're also, you know, I think in a realm to where it's like you're talking about, you kind of want to know how all these things work. So it kind of behooves you a little bit more to go do that, right? Sure. So I sit back and kind of laugh at a lot of this because I said, we're back to concern for the consumer. I'm like, I love the fact that hardcore gamers are so concerned about the casual gamer and what they're going to experience when they get out there. They're not going to know which console to pick up because the naming conventions are weird. They're not going to know how to install these new things. Guys, guess what? The average gaming consumer is probably not going to go and spend $200+ more on any of this expansion stuff. Probably not initially. That's just my thought process on it. This is for people who are more engaged into doing those types of things, if that's what you want to do and expand, especially on the beta side of it. You know, so do I think in part some of it, as far as not the installation, but the what you may need, what it may require, is a little convoluted, and someone's going a different route about it, you know, being in the beta testing. But I would imagine that, you know, Microsoft didn't do an open beta on theirs, but I'm sure they did a lot of testing to figure out what was going to work as far as the proprietary goes. I don't think one is necessarily worse than the other. It's just Sony's going to go through this process. They're going to get their data. They're going to pull it together. And then there will probably be a complete list of what is this and that. And then you're going to probably also, just like with Microsoft, eventually, when the Seagate contract runs out, you're going to have other options for third parties that just clip into place, or you plug this one in. More expansion. You're going to get 2 terabytes on the Xbox side. Probably you'll have all kinds of ones. The prices will start coming down, and the gaming community will be on to the next thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, dude, like, even backing up what you said, I think Microsoft outright said they're working with other third-party manufacturers on other licensed drives right now. They just don't have them announced. So, like, that's going to happen. It's not an if. It's not it's when. Like, my thing is, if this. I wrote about this. If anyone wants to go read it on Android Central, I did write a quick thing about this. But, like, the fact is, if this was the wide release, if there was no beta testing and they were, like, yeeting people off the cliff with this, I might have a different reaction. I would probably come off a little stronger because, being this vague with a full release,
that would be a whole different.
All right. If they're doing this same thing when it exits beta testing, a bit of a different discussion at that point, because at that point I think people can feel fair to be like, no, seriously, tell me, does this work or not? Like, come on here, I'm dropping $250. But it is a beta test. This is opt-in. This is explicitly, you have to sign up. And by the way, if you sign, just because you signed up does not mean you'll be selected. I signed up a while ago. I have not heard back. As far as I know, they've just denied me and I don't know about it. Who knows? Maybe I'll get the email tomorrow. The point is, like, you can't guarantee. Well, Nick, it's true. I might. Like
it's happened before, Nick.
It's happened before. It could happen again. You can't guarantee that. So, like, I get it. Like, I understand, having to look for, like, make sure it fits these measurements, make sure it also has the heat sink because it'll fry. Otherwise, like, I get that that's a little annoying, but I think it's going to be better. I think I'm going out. I'm stepping out on a limb here and saying it kind of sucks right now. I get that. I think if you let them exit this beta phase, it'll be fine when we move on past that, and we'll be all right. And if we aren't, then all right, y'all, go nuts, go hog wild. Fine, whatever. But until we get to that point, maybe simmer a little bit.
Right, and I can actually see like a listing. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Sam.
No. I was just saying that's my spiel on the whole thing, boiled down to its brass tacks.
Right, and I definitely think when they come out of the beta and it kind of goes to the masses, I think you'll get the thing of where it says these are our recommended drives. Right, I don't think it's going to be a thing because I know people are saying like, oh, they're putting you out there like you're going to brick your console and you're done. It's like, again, this is no different than opting into like a clinical study for a medication. You're signing the waiver to say, hey, we're going to give you this thing. You may have these effects. You may not experience anything, but there's a possibility you may experience X, Y, Z. You turn on TV, you're watching sports, you see a pharmaceutical commercial. It says, hey, this is going to clear up your cough, but you may start bleeding out of your eyeballs.
Well, let's be real. No, Eric, that might be a bad comparison because I trust expanding my PS5 more than I trust some of those medications where they're like, side effects may include, and I'm like, 3 minutes later, you're still going, huh?
Right. And Sam, and that's not even in the beta. That's actually on the market.
Right, exactly.
Right. Like,
exactly.
Take it your own risk.
You know what's wild to me is you guys have medication commercials. That's so wild to me.
Oh, they must work because I don't remember, like growing up, I don't remember seeing medication commercials like that. And now it's like I can't even watch basketball or football without them talking about my dick being hard. It's like why are we correlating me watching these big guys running around with my dick being hard? I don't know. Okay. So hey, and then it's beer and pizza. Beer, pizza, dick hard. It's like the whole thing. These are the things important to men. Watching sports, and the women who love sports are like, what are we doing here? Yeah. They're advertising minivans to the soccer moms on that one, I guess.
Yeah, but like
so.
Yeah. Again, like I think we're kind of on the same page here. There are different, and the thing is, like going proprietary, going non-proprietary, you can argue back and forth. At the end of the day, there's going to be we're still in a pandemic, not 1 year out from these consoles having launched. At the end of the day, a couple of years from now, I think both consoles are going to have a couple of different options that reasonably fit and reasonably provide what you need. And you know what? If you're one of those people like you, Nick, who like can just finish a game and delete it and then you're done, cool. More power to you. I can't. To answer your original question, I am going to upgrade my PS5. Because I'm getting that's not a lot of space, and I'm getting real tired of seeing a couple of games installed on there take up so much of it. So I'm like, you know what? All right, I'm going to. I don't know which one it'll be, but like if I can get into the beta program, I am going to try expanding it with like the WD Black or the Seagate or whatever. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just thought it was important to answer your actual original question.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I updated my PS3's hard drive. I updated my PS4's hard drive. I've done all that stuff, So again, to me, to you, to Nick, that's not a hard thing to do. And I'm looking at I'm like, it's not that. It's just, again, it's the gaming community. They have they got to run with something.
I mean, Eric, dude, replacing your PS4 drive, at least you don't have to get the memory, or not the memory, the operating system off the USB.
Right.
Remember that? Like that was some actual nonsense.
Yeah. I was
wait.
Yeah.
Why would you replace? What? Could you not just plug expandable storage into the PlayStation 4?
You have to open it up, but you had to reinstall the OS back onto it.
And you couldn't download it. You had to get it off the website, and you had to make sure to get the right file, by the way. Yeah. If you just got the update and not the actual OS, then you would think you've bricked your console. You didn't. It was just it didn't have anything loaded.
Right. Now, that was more convoluted, but you didn't hear as much about it because people weren't,
Because I don't think people were doing it, honestly.
Right. And like I said, I did. And the thing is, I'm like, because you had the option of doing the same exact thing on both consoles, you could grab an external, plug it in, and you were off and running. Me, I didn't have a problem. I was like, okay, I'm going to throw a 2 terabyte in there. I did it for my cousin. That's just how I rolled, right?
Sure.
So eventually I will update my PS5. It's just, like Nick was asking the question, how soon? Again, this is like, for the majority, like Sam, we're built different. So I say like right now because of cost, but the minute I see the one that I want and it's on sale and it's at a price, I'm like, okay, I'll make that plunge. I'll do that, right? So, but again, I would say I would wager the gaming community at large are not going to run out to do either one of them at $200 plus. They're just not going to do that. Yeah. And I laugh because I see all the concern about how these things are done and what it costs, and this and that. And I'm like, in the casual consumer, I'm like, how many of you hardcore guys have run out and updated either one? Mm-hmm. But you're worried about what the other one is doing. It's just.
I'll toss my opinion into this. I made a tweet about this, and for some reason, whenever I tweet stupid shit, people decide that's what they're going to latch onto for the day. So I said, my storage solution is beating my games and uninstalling them. To which promptly hundreds of people came to tell me why that doesn't work.
Slow-Mo caught the same thing, bro. Slow-Mo said the same thing you said pretty much, and he caught the same people you got, I guess.
Yeah, I literally said my storage solution. Keyword my.
They didn't see that part.
And they were like, but what if you have Warzone installed? And I'm like, I don't have bad games on my console, bro. I don't know what you want me to do with this. But like, I understand the frustration some people have with their storage. I get it. I understand. I come from a place of privilege where I downloaded and installed the Master Chief Collection in 24 minutes. I understand that not everyone can install 150 gigs in under half an hour.
And that's the other part of the equation. How good is your internet? Me? I don't want to re-download 50, 60, 70, 80 gigabyte stuff. It takes a minute.
Everybody's situation is different.
Yeah, like for me, when I want to play 2K on the weekend, I literally just install it for the weekend and then uninstall it because I can download it in 15 minutes. Like FiberWire.
Look at that flex, Sam.
FiberWire has made me such a snob in terms of, I'm like, why would I pay for storage when I can just uninstall it?
The humble brag just continues, huh? Like it starts and it just doesn't stop. It keeps on going.
Makes like storage. Ew.
But let me put it this way. Well, I don't care about the casual consumer because I understand all this stuff. I follow video games to a T. I don't know what fucking iPhone I have. Work gave it to me. I think it's an 11. It might be an XR or an XX or a XX if they let me watch porn on it, but they don't. So, company phones. But the thing is like, who cares? If it works for you, it works for you. If it doesn't work for someone else, they will whine and complain loud enough that something will be done about it. But like people trying to pretend like plug and play isn't convenient are stupid. And people trying to pretend like it's that convoluted to install one are also stupid.
Which is hilarious, which is why I sent my tweet out. I'm like, we knew what both of these solutions were going to be when these consoles launched. Why are people now acting as if they didn't know?
The thing is I understand one perspective on this, and this is from a friend of mine that has a PlayStation 5. His disappointment lied in the fact that this is the storage solution now, and we're rolling it out almost, close to closing in on a year after the console's released, and it's rolling out in beta. He's like, why is it our storage solution on my console is in beta already when you have all these games that you want me to play that I can't fit on my console? And I understand that frustration because we're coming from a generation where, on your Xbox One, you just plugged in a fucking external 5 terabyte drive and away you go. Like, I understand the frustration that things are a little bit more complicated. But the thing is when it came to these SSDs that are giving us these performances that we love so much, it's going to be a little bit more complicated.
Sure. And honestly, not to interrupt your speech here, but like, dude, the fact is the speed overall improvement on both sides, I'll put up with any confusion or, it's proprietary and it's expensive. Or like, you're going to have to unscrew. Like, you know what? The fact that my game's load in 4 or 5 seconds instead of 40 or 50, I'm okay with it. That seems like a very small price to pay to me.
And honestly, when it's all said and done, it doesn't matter. People will upgrade. People will figure out the way. I'm sure once they get this sorted out, there'll be a clear path. You'll be able to go type in PlayStation expandable memory. There's going to be 50 million sites that are going to have a detailed walkthrough with pictures to help you get through it.
Yeah, it's been the same. It was PS3, PS4. It was the same thing. There's always going to be somebody who can help you walk through the thing.
And knowing that from what you guys are telling me, because I never expanded my PS4 storage, because once again, I just beat games and delete them. I never expanded the storage, and my PS3, I had like the 300 gigabyte one or whatever,
which is way more than you would need on a PS3.
To be honest with you. It's like, yay, Uncharted for 6 gigs.
Yeah.
God. I was looking at some backwards compatible stuff, and like, did y'all know the original Dark Souls is 4 gigabytes on 360?
Yes.
4 gigabytes. There are indie games that ain't that small these days.
Nope.
Yep.
There are indie games where it's like, oh, it's 6, 7, 8. Like,
yeah. And things are going to push forward, and
it's just hilarious that people who spend all day telling devs how wrong they are about their complicated game development job can't figure out proprietary or installing a hard drive. All day long you keep saying how consoles match higher end PCs, and consoles are actually doing some of the things PCs are doing now. Now it's like, oh, it's too tough.
Well, don't you remember all the people that were eager for the Xbox One X and the PlayStation 4 Neo, and they're like, oh, swappable GPUs, bro. I'm so ready to swap out my GPUs for more power.
Apparently you weren't.
Look, I saw someone, they were like, this is as confusing as laying your PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 5 on the side and installing that silly stand. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? I agree with that, because you're a goddamn heathen if you lay a PlayStation 5 down. Like,
right.
How much desk space do you have? Like, how big is your desk to lay one of those things down? Like, I see people and they're like, oh, here's my horizontal PlayStation 5 and horizontal Xbox Series X. And I'm like,
ew on both.
Yeah, well, I'm just sitting there going,
heathen.
How brave of you to publicly say how much your parents didn't love you growing up is when you lay all your consoles horizontally. But no.
I love seeing the PlayStation 5 sideways, like in a cubby hole like this big, and it's like edge to edge. It's like they wedged it in there.
We're hammering in the corners right now. Like, all this aside, storage solutions will get better. They will get cheaper. Like, you look at the hard drive cost at the beginning of the Xbox One PS4 generation and the hard drive cost by the end of the generation, right? Massive difference on what you were getting. Like, I remember 500 meg drives being like expensive. Like, I remember buying a gigabyte drive used for like $300 in like 2014 and being like, hell yeah, great deal, man. And like, it is what it is. Like, honestly.
And let's keep it real, Nick. I mean, people are saying no one's gonna know how to do this, and it's like, you can find YouTube videos on how to rip up a driveway, regroute it, and relay it yourself. I'm pretty sure people will be able to figure out how to like install a hard drive into a PS5.
I don't know. I feel like I
can reshing on my bathroom.
You know what? I have a really bad filter, and I just filtered a joke that was going to come off really, really poorly, and I'm glad the filter caught it. Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. We gotta stop assuming everyone's idiots at some point. We have to, with something. We can't be like idiot proof every single thing. Like, okay, you gotta take a screw off, put this here, and you're good. But I accidentally stuck the screw in my eye, and I don't know what to do, and like.
And to use one of Eric's favorite phrases, at a certain point, that sounds like a you problem.
Right.
Like, it's like the old 2009 Reddit meme, instructions weren't clear. I got my dick stuck in the ceiling fan. Like, but, people will come up with their own solutions. We had actually 3 listener questions around storage solutions, and we covered all of it. So thank God we'll never have to talk about this again.
We won't have to talk about it again. You're bold. You're funny. They'll find a way.
Yeah, the first one that bricks is going to be a news story for a week.
And they're going to leave out the fact that whichever one it was, they poured water on it or something. They're going to leave that part out.
Oh, you mean like the Xbox Series X catching fire through vape pens?
I wasn't going to say it, but yes, like that one. I remember that one.
I admire the consistency of some of these people, of how hard they go for the grift. It's a talent. It's a talent. It really is. Like, who would have thought of like holding a Series X up and blowing vape into it and then turning the X on to make it look like it's on fire? Like, or like burning the corners of your PlayStation 4 Pro, being like, it overheats, with a lighter, bro. Right. There's so many great FUD tales are always so great. Like, man.
Did we have any non-storage related community questions?
We actually had a community question based around the PlayStation 3, believe it or not. So the question is because a lot of us, as indicated by our listener, I know many people were traders during the PS3 and Xbox 360 generation, switched from PlayStation to Xbox due to the various missteps by PlayStation leadership, and that the brand at the time of the release of the PlayStation 3, get a second job. Was there a point where you guys reconnected with the PlayStation 3, or is that a generation you guys skipped completely?
I'll dive in. Much like with the Xbox One, beginning of the Xbox One generation, I keep it consistent. Like, I don't go in for foolishness. So when they were up there with the pricing and the second job, and I was like, I'll see you when you figure this out, because I'm not rocking with you guys. And I mean, at this point, an OG Xbox, I was loving that. I had my PS2, I was loving that. And coming up through PS1, PS2, I was definitely a PlayStation fan, and I'm looking forward to it. I didn't get a PS3 until like 3 years in. And that's pretty much, I would say, I got one 3 years in, and I was still not, I would not say that I was back to being like any kind of type of hardcore PlayStation player. Like, I was playing like the exclusive stuff on there. Because too, if you go back and think about it, there were development hiccups with it. So the versions that were running on the PS3 were gimped in a lot of ways. They were not running as effectively on the Xbox 360. So I was predominantly an Xbox 360 gamer. Like, I bought pretty much all my multiplats there. The exclusives and stuff there. I was pretty much over there doing most of my stuff and playing most of my exclusives on the PlayStation. PS4 kind of brought me back around, because at that point it felt more like the PlayStation that I kind of came up with on PS1 and PS2, I should say. But by the end of the generation, they had really turned it around and figured it out. And that's even through like the major hack and the whole nine, But yeah, but no, I got in there because there were some fantastic games from the middle on, So,
Sam?
I keep it simple. I didn't have a PS3. I was broke. Remember, I was a young teen when the PS4 and Xbox One were announced. I was broke. So I didn't even get a 360 at launch. I got a 360 like 2 years after it came out. So
Sam was kid broke.
No. Yeah. I was kid broke. Adult broke is when you have the money to buy stuff, but you don't have the time to play it. Right. I had five time and no money. Now I have 5 money and no time. It is how it works. I didn't.
This is how it goes.
I will say this: like, if the PS4 hadn't happened, I was trying to justify thinking if I could get like a cheap used PS3 to play the Uncharted games and to play The Last of Us and a couple of other things, because I saw The Last of Us and I was really into that. But then I saw the PS4 announced and I was like, you know what? They're going to bring the stuff I want to the PS4. So I'll check in with you a couple of years after launch and it'll work out. And sure enough, mid 2015, you had the Uncharted collection that had come out. The Last of Us for PS4 was before then. So I was like, and Bloodborne. So I was like, yep, now we're good. Mm-hmm. But the PS3 specifically, no, I never owned a PS3.
Yeah. I still have my PS3 Fat, my original one. Still kicking.
Yeah, I remember the launch of the PlayStation 3 because I was 13 years old and I sold a ton of bags of parsley to get my second job lined up. so that I could afford a PlayStation 3. And in Canada, I dropped just about $1,000 on a PlayStation 3 and launch lineup because that was like a $700 console up here. Plus tax.
Cheaper here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that boy was expensive, man.
Yeah, I can't remember how much it was exactly, but I remember being close to $1,000 when I bought it, and then it yellow lighted on me like a year and a half later, and I went, "Fuck this! Buying a 360," and I bought the Xbox 360 Elite, and that was where I played my Call of Duty and everything else. I ended up getting a PlayStation 3 late in its life cycle, probably around. I have to say it was around 2012, 2013, because I got it with God of War Ascension. So it's got to be 2013 that I bought because Ascension came out in 2013. Because I got it with Ascension and The Last of Us. And I played through The Last of Us and I was like, wow, that was a really great game. And I played through God of War Ascension and I went, what the fuck?
Yeah. I was so done with God of War at that point, Nick. I was like, if there's another God of War and it's this, because I got to a point. I was like, I don't identify with this Kratos anymore. Like, I was angry when Kratos first came around. I was a younger, angry person. Now I'm like, I'm not this angry anymore. And he's still yelling and screaming and and ripping things. And it's So
I remember
it just wasn't that great.
I beat through The Last of Us. I beat that, and I was like, you know what? I might sell this. I need to get a next generation console. And of course, the Xbox One, PS4 were gearing up to line up. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to buy the true next generation console. I traded that PlayStation 3 in, and I bought a Wii U.
Man, you were on a run.
Instead of oh god, what was it? The iconic Gamescom 2015 Sony presentation, just hit after hit after hit. That's what Nick was going for.
And then all
hit.
All I got, because I bought it with the Mario platformer that came out. It was like Super Mario Brothers U or whatever the hell it was, the launch game. And the Zombie U bundle. I still have the picture on Facebook of my wife holding it, and we were so excited for this console, man. Like, utmost hype for it. And then I was like, all right, so we beat those two games. So what do we do now? Sold it for a couple of bags of parsley and moved on with my life and never looked back.
Hey, I still love my Wii U, man. We still play. Sarah and I still play on it.
See, I wish I still.
The only place to play Wind Waker HD right now.
Well, luckily for you, you're going to get the privilege to pay for that again.
Right.
But
I would gladly play for that again to have it on the Switch.
You know what? I was sitting there the other day, and I've got Majora's Mask on cartridge, and I was looking at it, and I was looking at my N64, and I was like, "Be so much easier if it was just on the Switch."
Yeah, I want it off the 3DS, man. I want all those. I want all those games off the 3DS and the Switch, because going back now to play the 3DS, it's like holding a DualShock 3. It's just too. You realize, I don't know how I did this. It's too. I'll always have my 3DS. I'm sure I'll go back and play things on it, but yeah, I definitely want that real estate, or the option to play it on the big screen.
Actually, I've got a question for you guys. Actually, it's not a viewer question. It's more of a question for you because I have this problem about going back. Now that I've had the DualSense, and it's not so bad with the Xbox controllers, but with the DualSense in particular, I can't use the DualShock 4 anymore. I was trying to play Minecraft with my daughter the other day, and I was like, this controller feels uncomfortable.
Yeah, I mean, I probably could, but I'll tell you what, I have not picked up a DualShock 4 since I set my PS5 up. I'll actually tell you that. I do not think I've picked one up in that time. So I say I could probably do it, but now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I don't know. Maybe not.
I would imagine in a lot of ways it's how it felt playing on a DualShock 4 and going back and picking up a DualShock 3.
Yeah, for sure.
And picking up a DualShock 3 and going back and picking up a Generation 1 PS controller. Which I had not done until I got the Classic. And I held that. I'm like, for real, how the hell did I do this? With no analogs, like none of that stuff, right? So I can imagine it's probably much the same, going back from a DualSense to a DualShock 4. I don't have a DualShock 4 in the house anymore. Like I got rid of everything, like on the PS4 side of it. But I can imagine it's probably that same feeling.
Yeah, no, it just I was sat there because like in comparison to the PlayStation 3 controller, the DualShock 4 was great. Like it was bigger, it was better, and everything else. But like the DualSense is just like, for me, like the Xbox controller update and the DualSense update is like, I know everyone's complaining that controllers are like, they feel bigger and everything else, but my God, I'm so grateful for that because like my friend has like the NES Classic or whatever, and he's like, oh, let's play a game. And I'm sitting there like, this is the worst controller that anyone has ever designed. I'm like, it's a square with buttons in it. And it's like, controller design's gotten so ergonomic and comfortable now, and it just keeps getting better and better. It feels harder and harder to go back. Like, I would literally pay $60 not to have to play anything on an N64 controller. Because my God, who has 3 hands to use an N64 controller anymore?
Yeah. I remember those analogs when they would wear out, it'd just be like a little stick like floating around in the middle of the controller.
You're sitting there trying to play Goldeneye, you're like flicking the stick around, and it's like...
Yeah. I mean, you look at an N64, I've always loved that controller just for the fact that Nintendo was like, yo, how much parsley were they smoking when they made that thing? But I think ergonomically, the GameCube controller is probably like their best ergonomic controller as far as holding it.
Yeah.
They've never really done convention when it comes to controllers. They've always been kind of like interesting. Like as a kid, I didn't ever pay any attention to holding an NES controller or the SNES controller. You just played. You didn't even think about it like that. But yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because I sat there and like my friend was like, have you ever played your Vita without the case? And I'm like, it's a case? Because I bought it with the case. I've never taken the case off. So I popped it out of the case to play it just like regularly, and I was like, ew.
It's tough, man. The it's the same thing like with the Switch handheld. Like if you get like the like one of the external handles or whatever, it's night and day. Like holding it. Like I'm trying to think. I have I can't think of the name of it right now.
The Hori, isn't it?
No, God, what's the name of that thing? I don't know, but you slide the Switch down into it, and once I got that, I was like, yo, because I would play the Switch handheld, but eventually, your hands start to cramp. It's just how, if you have bigger hands, right? Those things are game changers. And and the one I have on my Switch, on my Vita, game changer. Because just trying to hold it like regular, after a while, your hands just start to cramp. And that's why, I'm looking at like the Steam deck, and I'm like, the button placement on that, I'm like, people are going to have some serious hand cramps playing that thing. Looking at where they're placed. You have the double analogs up top. That's like how the Wii U gamepad was, which was very odd to like hold. And then the buttons are actually like almost in the curve areas of, where the unit sits. I'm like, man, shout out to the third-party handle makers.
For real.
They're going to make a killing.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. One of the reasons I'm not day one on a Steam Deck is because I'm looking at it, I'm like, I'm gonna wait till the third-party support comes for some of these, because that looks uncomfortable. Like I can play my Switch for like 30 minutes before I'm like, thumbs. And I see like my daughter and my wife play it. I'm like, fuck your tiny hands. Like, like it looks so comfortable.
So you don't have one of the any of the handles for it or anything like that, right?
Nah, they're like almost $100 up here. And my desire to play Switch, there just hasn't been that game on Switch yet where I'm like, I need to play it. I need to invest. Like I sucked it up for Luigi's Mansion 3, and that was like the last Switch game I played, basically, because like, everyone knows my opinions on Breath of the Wild, so we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and I'll put it like this: even Sarah doesn't like really playing with the Joy-Con like sideways.
Yeah, see, my daughter's a heathen. That like bundled in little thing where you could slide the Joy-Cons onto that little controller. My daughter loves that thing. I'm just like, how? Like, I understand I have gorilla hands. Like, it's a blessing and a curse. But like, come on, games. Be more ergonomic for my monkey hands. Okay.
Right.
But yeah, so that kind of wraps up our show. Good time as always. Appreciate everyone that stops in and watches this afterwards. Sam, where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Samuel Tolbert. That's Tolbert, and you can find everything I'm writing over at Windows Central and whatnot. So come check us out.
Absolutely. Doing great work over there as always. Eric?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, EC Jackson with an X. And when I'm not here with you guys, you can find me on the Brat Podcast Wednesday nights at 9:00.
Absolutely. And I'm Nicholas Downey. You can find me on Twitter at Nicholas_Downey. Please don't, but you can. And you can also find my written work at lordsofgaming.net on Medium. And you can also find me on Friday mornings with Cheat Code Radio with Anchorman. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in. And we will see you guys next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern time this time. I promise. It won't be late. It's episode 69. I won't be late for episode 69. That's for sure. So appreciate you all and see you guys next week.